All right, let's dive into a really fascinating corner of the investment world, one where creativity and finance actually come together to create a pretty unique way to earn passive income. We're talking about securitized royalties.
But before we get into the jargon, let me just ask you something. What if you could get a tiny little check every single time your favorite song gets played on a streaming service? Or every time a classic book you love gets sold? Sounds like something that's just for the artists, right? Well, maybe not.
And that idea, that's the heart of what we're talking about today. This is the world of securitized royalties. It's basically the financial process of taking the income from things like music, books, and movies and turning it into an asset that, well, pretty much anyone could own a piece of. Okay, so how in the world does the money from a song getting streamed on someone's phone ends up in an investor's bank account? It really boils down to two key ideas: royalties and this thing called securitization. First up, let's talk royalties. This is a super simple concept. It's just the money that creators get paid whenever their work is used. Every single stream on Spotify, every book that's sold, every time a TV show gets a rerun, all of those things generate these little payments. And for really popular stuff, that trickle of pennies can add up to a really steady, predictable stream of cash. Now here's where the financial magic, so to speak, happens. It's called securitization. This is the engine that takes all those future payments, the tiny bits of money from millions of different streams, and bundles them all together into one single asset that you can buy right now. It's how you turn a future flow of income into a present-day investment. To really wrap your head around this, just think about the housing market. It's a great analogy. Think of the royalties from one song as being like one person's home mortgage. A financial company then comes in and acts like a bank, bundling thousands of these little royalty mortgages together. And then they sell off shares of that big bundle to investors. So what you're buying isn't the song itself. You're just buying a claim on all the money it's going to make in the future. So you might be wondering, okay, this sounds interesting, but why am I hearing about it now? Well, it turns out there are a few big trends all converging at the same time that are making this market really start to heat up. It's really kind of a perfect storm. For one, streaming platforms give us incredibly clear data. You can see every single play, which makes predicting revenue so much easier than it used to be. At the same time, in this kind of volatile market, a lot of investors are desperate for stable income that isn't just going up and down with the stock market every day. And, of course, all this new interest means that the legal and financial tools needed to actually do these huge deals are getting better and more common. Okay, so that's the theory. But what does one of these deals actually look like? Let's just walk through a really simple example to see how it works out for everybody involved. So let's imagine we've got a musician, and her back catalog of songs is pretty solid. It reliably brings in about $100,000 a year. Over the next 10 years, that's potentially $1 million. The only problem, that money is just going to trickle in little by little over a whole decade. And this is where it becomes a perfect win-win situation. The musician, she needs a big chunk of cash right now. Maybe she wants to fund a new album or buy a house. On the other side, you've got an investor who is looking for exactly what she has, a reliable, long-term income stream. So the creator sells the rights to that future money, gets the cash she needs today, and the investor gets the passive income they were looking for. So what does that look like in practice? Well, an investor might come along and offer, say, $800,000 right here, right now, for the right to collect that future $1 million stream. The investor is taking on the risk that the song's popularity might fade, but in return, the musician gets a huge, life-changing payment up front. Now, hold on. Before you go thinking this is some kind of magical money machine, we absolutely have to talk about the risks. Because like any other investment out there, this is not a guaranteed home run. And there are some real pitfalls to watch out for. First, forecasting. You're basically betting that a song or a book is going to stay popular. What happens if tastes change? Your income could just dry up. Then there's legal clarity. Ownership rights for creative stuff can get really messy. If there's some kind of legal fight over who owns the rights, those payments could stop in a heartbeat. Valuation is another big one. Trying to put a price tag on future art is, well, it's more of an art than a science. And finally, liquidity. If you need your cash back fast, you can't just sell this on the stock market. Finding a buyer can take time. So after hearing all that, you might be thinking, okay, this is just for big hedge funds and music superstars. But that's not exactly the case. There are actually ways to dip your toes in this water on a much, much smaller scale. So where could you even begin? Well, you could look at acquiring smaller rights from, say, local musicians or up and coming authors, where the initial cost is way lower. Or you could partner directly with a creator you really believe in, helping them fund a project in exchange for a piece of the future earnings. There are even online marketplaces starting to pop up that let you buy little fractional shares of bigger song catalogs. But honestly, the most important step is that last one. You have to learn how to look at the data and really understand what these things are worth.
At the end of the day, I think what makes this whole space so cool is that it really is this compelling blend of creative work and finance. It's a way for artists to get the value out of their work up front, and it's a way for investors to actually participate in the success of art in a way that's disconnected from the daily drama of the stock market. So I'll leave you with a final thought to chew on. The next time you're listening to a local band you love or you're reading a book from a new author, just ask yourself, which of these creative things happening all around me could actually be the next big investment? The answer might be closer than you think.